It was like at a screeching halt when they filed another eviction on me. I was like devastated. And I remember they filed on me and I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to get this money. And I just went through a very hard time trying to get money, feeling discouraged. Like at that time point, I had walked away from the Lord. I was like, there is no way that you're real. I said, God, it's just no, like, you have abandoned me. And I walked away. I put it down. That's why if you go on my channel today and you look at the confidence series, it came to a screeching halt. And there are no more videos in that playlist because I was done. When I tell you I was done with God, I was like, nah, ain't no God, man. I was done. And I went down a deep depression. Like I was literally, I'm being so vulnerable with y'all right now. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this, but it is what it is and it happened. Um, so in that time of going through just like a deep depression, I was just like, oh my God, like these clients, I'm just trying to get clients. I was struggling. I had actually always, even before this, struggled with lust, you know, just struggled with like lust, like my body, my flesh. Like, listen, so I graduated from Clark Atlanta University, CAU, you know, and when I went to college, I was wild. Like, because I had grew up in private school for most of my life. So coming to Atlanta back when I graduated back in 2015, but coming there at that time as a teenager for the very first time, yo, I broke out. I was wilding. I was dealing with lust real bad. Fast forward to 2023 when I left the Lord and was dealing with depression. I was like addicted to masturbation. Like I just didn't stop. I was so depressed. I was like, I'm gonna get kicked out of this apartment anyway. What else is there to do? What is the meaning of life? Nothing's going right for me. I'm just about to Netflix, chill, and masturbate. And it was like I was just caught in a cycle and I was so depressed. It was like it was a temporary high, right? It satisfied my flesh for a short period of time. But then after, I would have to come back to the reality that everything was falling apart. I didn't even have the fortitude in me. I struggled with that depression, masturbation, hopelessness for months. And I almost didn't even feel like I recognized myself. Like I would stay in the house all the time. I was just, oh my gosh, I just was a shell or a fraction of myself. I was not my normal how I would normally go about even my day. I lost all motivation. And I remember I'm so grateful for community. If y'all are not in community, I know that everybody is not for you, but best believe that there are those individuals who are. And when I tell you, I'm so happy that I was actually in community. I have a small circle, but I was so grateful to have them in this time. I remember in the midst of this, because I didn't share with anybody. I didn't share with them, in the sense of going through like the depression, the masturbation, the hopelessness, fear, all of that. I didn't share that with anybody. And I remember a very good sister friend of mine who's a part of my tribe. She called me up one night. When I saw her phone call, I was like, this is the Lord. He's trying to get at me, and I've already left him. He's trying to get at me through her because she is a fiery one for God. And I just knew I was like, uh. So I picked up the phone and she just, she talks to me. She's kind of like, how you doing? And she's just talking. And we end up having a pretty decent, long conversation on the phone. And I remember toward the end of the call, she was like, and I feel like the Lord wants me to say this to you, so I'm going to say it. And she told me, she was like, when are you going to get up? And I was like, I was like, all right, man, you know? And, we say our goodbyes. I'm like, love you, sis. We say our goodbyes. I knew that that was direct, and message was directly to me. When are you going to get up out of this funk, girl? And so I go, turn on my Netflix. And for some reason, I like lost all appetite to even watch anything on TV. And it was early, it wasn't late, but all of a sudden I got really sleepy and I lost it. I suddenly lost the appetite to watch any TV. I got really sleepy and I was like, oh crap, I'm going to go into a vision. Let me explain that. So again, I tell you guys that God speaks in different ways. And just as a father has multiple children, and one way that he would speak to his child that he loves, and another way that he would speak to his other child that he loves them all the same, but we all have our unique ways in which he talks to us. And for me, one of those that I've discovered in my life is through dreams and visions. And when I suddenly lost my appetite to watch trash TV, and I all of a sudden was sleeping at 9 PM. I was like, "Oh God." And I ain't talked to God in like a month and some change because I divorced. I was like, "No, I'm done with you." I divorced him. I'm like, he's about to come for me. And so I fall asleep and it was correct. I did. I went into a deep vision. And in this vision, I was walking around and I was like, just all the feelings that I was feeling in real life. And this woman that I've never seen in my life came up to me and she goes, "How are you?" In the dream. She goes, "How are you?" And I said, "I'm okay." I'm just like, "I'm okay." And she goes, "No, how are you really?" And in the dream, I bust out crying. When this woman in this vision asked me, "How am I really?" I bust out crying. And she tells me, she said, "The Lord highlighted you to me to pray for you. He told me to come and pray for you." And this woman in this dream, y'all, there's a Bible verse. It talks about angels being in disguise, and that when you entertain strangers in your home, you don't even know if you're entertaining an angel. This woman, I believe, was an angel. I had never seen her a day in my life. It was a white lady. No shade. Not that, come on now. I'm not trying to say I've never seen white people, but I'm saying like I had never seen this lady before in my life, but she came in my dream. And was like the Lord sent her to pray for me. And she just goes on to tell me some things about like my life and about like future wise that the Lord wants to do in my life and just revealing such revelatory things. And I woke up like, wow, because it felt so real, to be honest. It felt really real to be fake. I'm like, this can't have just been a regular dream. I wasn't watching anything that would have been anything like this dream. It was too real, and this lady knew too much about me in this dream, and it was too specific. And there was a whole lot of like future things that, yeah. So anyway, so I wake up and I was actually like really surprised because I thought that God would be mad at me. I was like, I have turned my back on God. I have just gone off the deep end. I'm like, and I denounced him. I was like, I don't even want you. And for him to bring me a dream, a future, to be like, showing me future things and that there are going to be connections for me. And that, I'm like, what? Wouldn't he be mad at me? But that wasn't the case. And that actually led me to go back into just, talking to God again, telling him about the things that hurt me. You got to be vulnerable, y'all. When we go, think about going to the doctor, right? When you go to the doctor and something's hurting you, you have to be so transparent with the doctor. In fact, when you're getting an examination, do you not have to get naked? You do. Is the doctor offended by it? No, not at all. And it's like, if we ever want the creator to heal us of anything, how can you do it if you're coming with a veil over you, if you're masking your real true feelings, even if you're mad at him. It's like that is not a real relationship. And so you always want to come and be so vulnerable when you're talking to God. And don't come with no religious stuff. Like, don't come like, oh, art thou? Like, please stop. Just talk to him normal, how you would talk to anybody else. But just come open, come as you are, be vulnerable, and just say what's going on in your life, right? I promise you, you do that for some days, you're going to, he's gonna move. I literally, my God, I had a whole moment. I remember I listened to some message. I kind of felt led to listen to this message from this particular church. They're talking about God keeps, it's a Bible verse, that God will keep those in perfect peace whose minds are stayed on him. That something about that verse, because I was going through such emotional, mental, physical, because I was being abusive to my body by overeating at that time too. So I was going through all types of trauma. And my mind was definitely not on the Lord at any point in time. But when I watched that message and began to just pray, out of nowhere, I just began to like cry and scream out. And I was on the floor crying. And I just said that verse over and over. And I don't know, I just had a moment in my little apartment, like crying on the floor. And when I tell you, by the time I got done with that night when I laid my head to go to sleep, I really truly did feel peace for the first time in like the whole almost 2 months that I went through that darkness. I felt peace. I let it all out. I cried. I yelled. I let it all out. And through that and turning back to God, I just felt peace. And I woke up and I began to build with him again. I began to build again. By this time, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward the story a little bit. That second eviction was coming up. I looked in the mail. I felt the need. So I was somebody who never checked the mail. I never used to check the physical mail because I always subscribed to my stuff, paperless. I can't stand checking the mailbox. But one particular day, I was like, I felt this urge. The Lord was like, go check the mailbox. And I'm like, no, because I just knew, I'm like, it's going to be the court date for this eviction. Surely enough, the court date got assigned November 1st, one day before my birthday. I was scared out my mind. I cried the entire drive to Fulton Magistrate Courthouse. I cried the entire time. And I had never been to court for anything. So I was like, are they gonna lock me up? Like for real. I literally thought that they were gonna lock me up. I was like, they're gonna lock me up. They're gonna say, why don't you have this rent money? And if you don't have it, we're gonna take you into custody. Hell, I didn't know. I was like, oh my God, what is my buckshot gonna look like? Should I wear makeup? I didn't wear makeup. I was so sad, just crying. So I'm like, I'm not even about to wear makeup. I get there, I come in, and actually, to my surprise, everybody was really nice. I'm not gonna lie, they were all really nice, like really nice. And even the judge was so nice. Even the prosecutor, like all the people. I remember even in the end, she was like, "Do you understand? I'm going to rule in their favor. I'm going to give you 7 days to get your things. If you come to agreement with them, you let me know." She was like, "Do you understand everything?" She was very kind. She was like, "And best of luck with everything." And even the prosecutor pulled me to the side after, because it was actually not just me in the court. It was a bunch of people facing eviction in Atlanta. And they just have us in batches. That's how many people are struggling with eviction. And he pulled me to the side and he was like, if you need help, you need to ask for help. And I said, I know. And he was like, if you have family or friends, he was like, don't be out here by yourself. Ask for help if you need it. And I said, okay, sir. And I went home and I was like, okay, I gotta get this stuff together. I gotta get my things to get ready to move. And I called my parents and I was like, I'm gonna get evicted. I mean, they knew anyway, but they didn't know the date. And I was acting like I had everything under control because I didn't want to ask for help. But I did. And My mom was like, "Well, you did know that this was coming. These are the repercussions." And she was like, "We'll help you get movers." So they did. They helped me financially to get movers and stuff, and I'm grateful for that. And so, oh God, if I go into that story, that was a whole ordeal too, because the first set of movers weren't, they refused to move my stuff, and it was coming down to the wire. And so I had to hurry up and just like, my mom ended up calling them and was like, "Listen, she about to be evicted. Come get this stuff." It was so embarrassing that she told them that. But listen, hey, sometimes you got to be just that raw and open, because when I tell you they sent out their best team, they sent out a 3 or 4 man team. The manager, they helped me get my stuff, and they were all so kind. I was so surprised because I'm like, here it is, these complete strangers at this, at this moving company, knowing my business, knowing that the marshal's about to come to my door in a couple of days to kick me out on the street. And that type of vulnerability, again, it worked. These men were so nice. They were so nice. They came in, they were so careful with my things, and they were so just sweet and encouraging and just helpful. After that, I was like, "God, I'm back with you. I'm trying to trust you. I don't know what to do." I went into a fast just one day, and he told me that, he said, "You have to come out of this place because this is a remnant of your past." And I was like, "Really? But where am I going to live?" And he told me to trust him. He told me to trust him to be my provider. And, that was easier said than done. And I truly didn't know where I was going to stay. Let me tell you guys, fasting is so powerful. Please try it if you have not. And if you have tried it and you felt like you didn't do it the right way or it didn't work, please try it again, and be so intentional. Um, but this fast was specifically for housing. And when it was all done, the last day after the fast, after God said he would provide, a new friend of mine called and was like, "Listen, the Lord wants me to offer you a room at my home. It's a large home. It's just me. And we'll talk about rent, however much you're able to pay. It'll be ready in January." Remember, this was November 2023. She said it'll be ready in January of this year, 2024. And I was like, it was almost too good to be true. Because honestly, I remember just feeling like, I don't really know her like that. And is this really going to work? Like, I was just kind of so skeptical, even still. And so, there was a time period between obviously November and January, and we were coming into the holidays. So I stayed with my other friend for just 1 week. And then, I drove home to Florida. And I was like, well, it's close to Thanksgiving. I was going to be home anyway for the holidays. Let me just stay through Thanksgiving, through Christmas. And I actually ended up staying a little bit later than that. I stayed till March. I stayed till March because I was scared. I didn't think, I was like, I don't want the same thing to happen to me that happened before. So I stayed a lot longer than I was supposed to stay. I stayed till March. In that time frame, I was so nervous to come here to Atlanta. I was so nervous to come back. It took everything in me to come back. I would call the girl who I was supposed to be living with. I would call her and be like, "I don't know." And she would just kind of just like talk peace into me and just be like, "Girl, you're going to be okay." She was like, "You have skill sets. You do makeup. You do styling." She was like, "You're going to be fine." And she was like, and in the end of the day, she was like, "Yes, the money does matter." But she was like, she herself has a business. And she was like, "We can do it, exchange of services. If you're short," she was like, "just do my makeup. It's going to be an exchange of a service." And I was like, "Are you sure?" I kind of almost couldn't accept it. Sometimes it's so hard to accept people just being good to you. I have never been in positions of vulnerability like I have been in this season of my life, this last year and a half. It took a lot for me to even just be vulnerable to say, "Yes, girl, um, I accept." Fast forward, I finally mustered the courage and I accept the offering that is set before me. And when I came here, I had some money saved from some gigs, some bridal makeup gigs that I picked up back at home, but it wasn't a lot. Um, I came here. She allowed me, we worked together to pick the rent amount that would work for me right now. Some things, I'll say this, that are for you that have your name written on them. They are beautiful places and spaces, whether it may be your dream job or your dream home or a spouse or just something you are hoping for that have your name written on it. But you cannot see it from the vantage point of your comfortability. I would have never known. So if you're watching me, this is a podcast, but if you're watching me on YouTube, you can see where I'm sitting. This is a content room that's within this house that I'm down in. The house has a content room. So there has been no excuses for me to not film. This is a content room that's a part of the house that I'm staying in. It has many rooms. My last apartment that I got kicked out of was a 780 square foot apartment, one bed, one bath. This house that I have not paid mortgage for, that I don't own, but by the kindness of someone's heart and by the provision of God, this place has been opened up to me. This is a 5,000 square foot house. This home is more than, I mean, I remember I used to tell God, I was like, I need a space to film my content. I'm like, if I'm gonna truly get on here and film, I just need my own, I need a space to do it. It needs to be cute. I didn't pay for any of this. My room is nice. Surprisingly, by God's grace, I have been getting clients and I've been able to make rent. I'm like, what Twilight Zone am I living in right now? And to put the icing on the cake, just to show y'all how much this is the Lord and He's real, months way before this happened, one of those mornings where I got up to talk to Him very early, He told me that He said, my covenant with you, I have not forgotten. I haven't forgotten my covenant with you. And I said, huh? Like when He said that to me, I was like, okay, that's cool. I'm like, wow, that's good to know. And I wrote it down. And you know how when you drive into a community, if you live in like a suburb community, HOA or whatever, so sometimes maybe it'll say a tennis community or a single family home community. It'll say the title of the neighborhood and maybe like a golf course community. When I pulled into this community, it said the title and it said a protected covenant community. I cannot make it up. It said a protected covenant community. I have never seen that on anybody's subdivision a day in my 31 years of living. I was fascinated. I was like, He told me way before this happened that He didn't forget His covenant with me. Isn't that a very specific word, covenant? Covenant just really talks about promises. It talks about like His word. Like if God tells you He's going to do something, He's going to do it. His covenant or His bonding with you. And for this community to say a protected covenant community, that brought it full circle for me. I say this to say that you can make mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. I have not done this journey perfect by no means. I have walked away from God, and He has still not walked away from me. He still pulled me back in. He was still there. When I was depressed, He was still there. When I cried at night, even though I didn't realize it, He was still there. And He gave me things that on my own I couldn't have done. Remember, the property manager lady told me that I would never get approved to live anywhere else. I got kicked out of a 780 square foot apartment, and I now live in a 5,000 square foot home. That's actually bigger than my childhood home. And it has a content room. And this is not my bedroom. This is a separate room specifically to film content. It's just amazing to me. Faith moves God. If you will do something by faith, He will not let you down, even if you don't do it perfectly. But if you do it by faith, He will honor that thing. His ways are just not our ways. And when I came back to this place, which at this point was about 2 weeks ago from this time of recording, I came back here and I said, okay, God, you opened the door for me to be in this home, this beautiful friend of mine who I just recently met, just so beautiful. This atmosphere is so peaceful. So much is accessible to me here. I was like, I cannot be here and not put my hands back to the community that you've called me to build. And I was like, but to be honest, I told God, I said, I've lost all like zeal for it. I was like, it has been tied to so much pain that I've experienced in the last year and some change. And I was just like, I don't have the same excitement about the confident chick community as I had when I first started. I was like, I need you to breathe on it and blow something new. I said, I need you to stir me up to make it new again. He said, make a podcast. And so here I am. And when he did, I got excited, but I also got scared as hell. And I had such anxiety. And I was like, I've never filmed a podcast. I haven't even been on YouTube in 6 months. I don't have a following. I don't know if this will resonate with anybody. My story is not yet prim and proper and pretty. It's not, I haven't hit my millions yet. I'm like, I don't have I'm like, I don't have my designer this and designer that, and it ain't all together yet. And I began to this week, I had some just I was moving forward, but I also was doing some very self-sabotaging behaviors. Like I was procrastinating so much to film this. I was like, well, first I gotta do this and then I gotta do that. Girl, it's a YouTube click away. If you don't know how to do a podcast, you can literally type in YouTube how to start a podcast for beginners. It'll show you how to do it. And I tried to make every excuse in the book of why I could not come and sit down and film this. I had to realize, and this is the realization that I've had. I sat down in my journal and was writing with the Lord, and a thought came to my mind. When will you stop running from your call? Just like me, running the entire time. Because if you listen to this testimony, if you made it to the end, girl, thank you. This is the end. But thank you for listening to my rants and my vulnerability. But, I remember my mom was telling me, she said, well, God is a God of abundance. So clearly he's not speaking to you because, you know, you can't even pay your bills. You went through an eviction. That's not God. And in a way, she was right, partially. She was right because God is good. If you open the Bible and you just begin to read through, if you need help reading through, there's plenty of sources to help you. Go to the Bible Project on YouTube as you're reading through different books of the Bible. There are other things, there's videos and things to help you to understand the stories of these people in this Bible. These are real people. It's a historical event. And what I noticed is that, in the Bible, it talks about God's characteristics. We all have our personality, our likes, our dislikes. Well, the Bible tells you about God's personality, his likes and dislikes. And one of the attributes of his personality is he is good. There's a verse that talks about the Lord. It says, taste and see that the Lord God is good. So despite of what any of us could be going through, it doesn't change that attribute of him. And so in that aspect, my mother was right because the Lord is good. And he has proved it clearly by redeeming things for me in my life, even despite of those addictions. I had a roof over my head. Thank you, Jesus. The thing about it is, yes, he is a God of abundance, but I knew that he was not. He told me not to go back to my comfort zone. And while I wanted to go back to go work at a salon so many times, I I knew that that was my comfort zone, and that was not what the Lord told me to do. His abundance, see, abundance is a place. I know we hear about abundance, we think it's a thing. No, baby, abundance is a place. There is a place that God has created for you to thrive and prosper in, where He wants to, where He delights, and it's His joy to see you thrive and make it and win in that place. In order to see that abundance, you have to get in the position, you have to get in the place to receive what He has for you. In my life, I ran in the last year and a half, I ran so hard. I don't even like running. I'm not, exercise is cool, but I'd rather walk than run. Baby, I ran from my call for the last year and almost 2 years because I did everything else but build the community that he called me off my job to come and build. It's taken me 2 years. The thing is, if I hadn't went back to my comfort zone, yeah, I would have made probably the same money that I used to make, but I would have been I would have known in my heart of hearts that I wouldn't have been fulfilled. I would have had a job, but I wouldn't have been fulfilled. And I would have known that I didn't go the distance. I believe that this was the thing that I was supposed to do oh my God. This was the thing I was supposed to do this entire time. And because I stalled, other things happened. I had lost because I didn't move. And I was not yet in the place where he could flow to me in abundance. It's a place, it's a position. In the book of Joshua, it talks about this guy and these people, and God has a land for them that he says that's a promised land. It's flowing with milk and honey, aka provision. Milk and honey could look different for you. It's provision. And he told them, he said, but you got to go and take possession of this place. In other words, they couldn't have what he had for them in the place of their comfortability. They had to go out. They had to do the hard thing. I ran for my calling from 2 years, ladies. Maybe there's somebody listening right now who's presently running from her calling. Whoever you are, you know who you are. And maybe like me, you've made every excuse in the book of why you can't do it and why would it be you? Why should you do it? Literally on Friday night, I sat and I was thinking and praying, and I was like, honestly, I may never feel worthy enough to build a community of women to walk in purpose. I may never feel qualified enough. I may never have enough education to do it. I may never have the accolades or the followers or the subscribes or likes to be qualified to do it. I may never look the part. I may never feel worthy enough to do it. But I've come to a point where I feel that it is so much bigger than me. Somebody, even if it's just one person, needed to hear my story because you too are walking through something similar and you need to see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Do the hard things, sis. It's not easy. No, it's not. But at some point, it has to become bigger than you. The gifts and the talents and the experiences that we walk through in life, yeah, they do shape us and mold us, but they're never just for us. They are for the breakthrough of others. I want to share this with you, a last closing thought. There's this movie that I loved as a child it was a Disney movie called The Princess Diaries with Anne Hathaway. And I was a kid when the movie came out and I loved it. It's a story of a girl who's just a teenager, regular teenager. She doesn't fit in. She's a nerd. She doesn't look the part. And she finds out from her long lost grandmother that her father, who died, she finds out that she's actually heir to a throne and that she's actually royalty and she's a princess. And about a few months ago, the Lord told me to go watch the movie again. And he said, her name was Mia in the movie. Her name was Mia. He said, in the Princess Diaries, Mia was having an identity crisis. And I said, what? I said, huh? I said, God, I don't even remember the movie. What? And he said, go watch it. She was having an identity crisis because she wasn't walking in what she was truly called to be. And it was hard for her. And she fought it tooth and nail, just like me, and maybe just like you. And when I watched the movie, I watched it with a new set of lens because I saw it with such revelation. Y'all, please go watch that movie. It's on YouTube for free. It's a little fuzzy in quality, but just go watch it. I boohoo cried at the end of that movie because I saw myself in her. Please go watch the movie. She truly was having an identity crisis, just like I was having, because she was called to a higher place, but she did not see herself as that. And so she made every excuse in the book of why she couldn't. But at the very end of the movie, it was raining outside, it was pouring, and she was supposed to accept her position or renounce it. And she was in her hoodie, girl, hair soaking wet from the rain. So she wasn't prepared. She didn't look the part. And she came up on that stage and she accepted her title as royalty and Princess of Genovia. And she accepted that title because she said in the movie, she said she realized that it was not about her, but that she had to accept that title because it was going to pave the way for others. And she realized that it was not about her and that it was a responsibility. And it also reminded me of Queen Esther. If you guys open the book of Esther in the Bible, it talks about a girl who is not royalty, but she realized that her people needed help. And so she ended up going to the king, I forgot his name, but he chose her to be his queen. And she ended up taking the position, not because she felt worthy, but because she knew that it was something she must do for her people. It was a greater thing. And in this moment, again, y'all, I don't know. I may never feel worthy enough to do this. I may never. I don't know how much. I don't want to spend another 2 years trying to get to a place of feeling worthy enough. The Lord will work that out in me in due time. I don't know. I don't feel prepared. I don't feel worthy, but I'm here today because I have determined in my mind that this is something I must do. There is something that you are called to, sister, that may seem so insignificant and it may seem as if it's above you and it may seem hard. But I promise you, what's on the other side of that is your place of abundance. It is your promised land. And you can't have it if you don't get out your comfort zone to go get it. We cannot run from our calling anymore. You see what's happening in our world today. I don't have to go down the rabbit hole about it, and I'm not here to talk about politics. There is so much going on. The world cannot afford people sitting on their butts and not living their true, authentic selves. living in their authority. You have gifts, you have talents, you have things that come so easy to you. You have life experiences that were hard as hell, but you overcame them. You're a victor. You are a queen. And there are people who need to hear your voice, and they need what's on the inside of you. They need your vulnerability. They need you to say, hey, I walked through this. This is how you overcome it. I walked through this. This is the product that I made, or this is the service that I do to help other people overcome it. They need you. It doesn't matter if your website's not perfect. It doesn't matter if you've never done it before. It doesn't matter if you don't feel qualified to do it. Somebody, somewhere in this world needs what's in you. And so this starts the sequence of the Confident Chick podcast. Every week, I am going to get so real and vulnerable. Listen, I vow to be real with y'all. I vow to be authentic. And every week, come and join me, girl, because life be life, and it really be a new thing every week. I have not reached the pinnacle of confidence. I've not reached the pinnacle of what God told me that confidence was in his eyes. I am not yet there. But I am here to be bold, to walk this journey out, and to share with you my wins, my losses, and the things I've learned along the way. And in due time, I will have because I got me some good girlfriends. I will have some very good guests on here. And girl, when we talk, our conversations go in. So I look forward to it. I thank you guys who have listened this entire time. And I'll see you next week. Let's go.